Today is December the 19th, 2013. My name is Tanya Finchum, along with Alex Bishop. We're with Oklahoma State University, and today we're in Norman, Oklahoma, to speak with Mildred Vandaveer, and this is in regards to our 100-Year Life project. So thank you for having us today. Let's start with having you tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in Dibble, Oklahoma, at home in 1913. October the 17th, 1913.
On the farm or in the
Yes,
hospital?
on the farm.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes. I have three sisters and a brother.
And where do you fall in that?
The second one.
Second.
From the oldest.
Okay. And what did your parents do for a living?
Well, my daddy farmed, and he had a little store in Dibble in 1925, but it broke down. And he had a store in Phoenix, Arizona for a while. But most of the time it was on the farm.
And did you have chores?
Certainly had chores.
What were a few of them?
What were a few of them? Just anything that a man did. No, mostly Laurel and I had to start washing dishes when I was quite young, and just do whatever that come necessary around the farm to do. I milk cows and all that stuff, and I've done just about everything that they did on the farm.
Gathered eggs?
Gather eggs. Well, I've delivered eggs at Norman for about 15 years.
Oh, you delivered them, sold them?
Mm.
Pretty good sized farm?
No, we wasn't farming at that time. My husband was a welder, and I was just a home body and raised the chickens to help put my kids through school.
Okay. Well, where did you go to school?
I went to school at Dibble and Newcastle and Blanchard. I started the school, though, in Arizona. I forgot I did that.
So did you graduate from high school in?
I graduated from high school in 1933.
And from where?
Blanchard.
Blanchard. Okay. What was your favorite subject in high school?
Oh, arithmetic and algebra, and that. I didn't like any of school. We had to stay out of school too much and pick cotton and work.
Pick cotton every year, or?
1 year in 25, we picked from September till February.
Hard work.
Hard work, and if it wasn't raining, we got to go to school when it rained, and that you lose interest in it when you have to do that.
Sure. About how many children were in your class once you got there? A small country school.
Yeah, but I think maybe we was one of the largest when I graduated from Blanchard, but I can't remember for sure how many it was. It was 20-something, I think.
Not very big.
Not very many people, no.
Once you graduated, what did you do?
Got married.
Well, then how did you meet your husband then?
Well, we was going to school together at the time, and that's how we met when we was in school. But when we had a friend that told us that there was two good-looking boys coming to start the Blanchard, and my sister-in-law now said, I'll get one, and I said, I'll get the other one, and we did. Had no idea what they looked like or anything, was just very foolish.
And so what would you do for a date?
I can't even remember hardly. A lot of times we just sit together at home, go to the show once in a while.
Blanchard had a movie theater?
Yes.
Did it?
Yes.
And so when did you get married?
1935, September the 23rd.
Right during the Depression.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories about those days in the 30s?
Well, I just know that we had to work hard, hon. That's all. As far as we never went hungry. We didn't have the best of food either, but we didn't never go hungry. And so I remember one time we had gravy for breakfast every morning, and I was so had it as long as we had the pork lard, it was all right. And we had to buy the other lard, and I said I can't eat this gravy. And my daddy said, well, you can when you get hungry. So you really can. It's not been an easy life, but I wouldn't take nothing for it, except for the loss of my family. I wish that hadn't happened, but it did. You have to go on.
So in 1935, you get married. Do you stay in Blanchard after you got married?
We lived in Blanchard till, let's see, 39, I guess. No, wait a minute. Yeah. Sharon was born in 39, and we moved out of Franklin and lived there till 41, and then moved to California. Because Raymond went in, no, I'm getting back. He went in service in 43, and he taken me and Sharon to California to live with my sister. And we stayed there then till 51 when he came out of service in 45, and come back to Norman and been here since.
What branch of the service was he in?
What did they call him? He built the roads. I can't think what it was called. Jerry, do you remember what that is?
He's an engineer in the Army.
In the Army?
Yeah.
The engineer. They went before and changed bridges and built bridges and Mama, tell him how come Daddy got drafted.
Oh, his mother had passed away, and we was working in the shipyards. No, she was sick, and he came back to Oklahoma to be with her. Well, then he went to work at Tinkerfield. And he quit. He said, I never saw such lazy people in my life. Stand around hid in places. And he just quit. And when he did, the Army picked him up just like that. Mm. But he got to stay there long enough till his mother was buried before he went to service.
And you said you worked in the shipyard?
Did I?
Yeah.
No, he did.
He did.
Yeah. And when he was in the Army, he was a sharpshooter till he found out what he'd have to do, and he decided that wasn't what he wanted to do because he would be the one that would go out first. Because she's a good shooter too.
So what were you doing while he was doing that?
I stayed with
your sister.
I stayed with his daddy till he come back. Till he got sent overseas, and they gave him time for him to take me to California to be with my sister.
And did you work while you were out there?
Just in their home.
Mm-hmm.
They both worked, and I just cleaned house and washed, done everything that was to be done. My daughter started school at California.
So you have how many children?
2 girls.
2 girls.
She did work.
Sharon and Jerry.
And
9 years apart.
That's quite a few. And you worked in the orange groves?
Not a lot. I did a little bit. while Raymond was in service, I worked a little bit in picking oranges and stuff, but not a lot. And we was picking, and the people that was helping him, they were people that was just kind of traveling through the country working. I forgot what the word was for them, but they shook the trees. And now the peaches was mostly and they fell on the ground and they was just soft. And my sister-in-law was packing them, and he came down there and the man did and said, "You don't shake the trees." And I told him, I said, "I don't shake the trees." And he said, "I know, and you don't pick them up on the ladder. You stay on the ground, make those other people pick them off the tree." But it was a shame that they did that.
A little bit easier than picking cotton.
Oh yeah, that was fun because I got paid for that. Papa would give us what was it, for 200 pounds a day? A quarter, I think it was. He'd give us a quarter if we picked 200 pounds a day. And my sisters and brothers picked it with two hands, and I picked it with one and got the 200 the same as they did. I picked in this hand and put it in this hand, and then I pick it, get another handful and put it in this hand, put it in my sack. I didn't even put it in the sack with my right hand. I might could pick a burr if it was real fluffy and pull it out, but I usually didn't get all of the cotton when I did that.
And how had you injured your hand?
How did I injure?
Mm-hmm.
I fell where my mother was scalding tomatoes, and my sister said it was black as his shirt, and it smelt so bad you couldn't hardly stay in the house. And I had a scar right there till I was 50 years old, and I still don't use that hand very much. I don't think I could feed myself with it, but it's done a lot of work. But this has done the most. When I was doing my nails done, the lady said, "This is my pretty hand."
How old were you when this accident happened?
I was between 1 and 2. I don't know how old I was really.
So they taught you to write with your left hand then?
Yes.
Whether it's natural or not, you did it?
Do what?
Whether it was natural or not, you learned to use your left?
Yeah. Yeah. Do everything I do with
Ask
it.
her about her wedding day.
Okay. We'll back up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your wedding day. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we went to my husband always said he's going to marry when he was 21. We went together for 4 years. And when he turned 21, I was 21. And he just came up one day and said he was going to get married, and I went to Montgomery Ward's and bought my dress and put it on and went out to the Justice of Peace in Oklahoma City and was married.
Did your parents know?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And then what did you do?
And I turned 22 then, in October, after we was both 21 when we married, though.
And did you go on a honeymoon?
Oh, no, we went back to my mother's house, and she fixed her dinner, and we went to bed in my bed where we slept all the time. We spent our first night together at my home. It's a different world to what they are today, I'll tell you. But I wouldn't take anything for the experience.
Well, after that night, did you move into your own place?
Pardon me?
Did you move into your own place after that?
No, hon. We didn't own we moved into his daddy's, had a little house on his farm, and we moved there in it, and lived there till 41. And then we moved up Franklin over here by Norman. And was there, I think we just farmed there 1 year, and then we went to California. Yeah, we went there in 40 and farmed 1 year and went to California then, and then stayed till his mother got sick in 43, and we come back, and then I told you that he,
In the military.
yeah.
What did he do for a living after he got out of the military?
He was a welder,
He was a welder.
and done a lot of welding.
And did you work outside of the home after that?
Only cleaning houses, and after I went to California when my sister's son died, and he let all my chickens quit feeding them, and they quit laying, and I come home and killed them all and put them in the freezer. And then I started cleaning the house and Norman, and I cleaned the house, 2 houses a week for several years.
Did you have a special technique for butchering your chickens?
Yeah. I cut their heads off with an axe. I'd lay it on a block and cut his head off. Otherwise, I wrung it off. When I was in California, and the ladies next door, they wanted a chicken killed. And I said, I can kill it for you. And I went over there and wring his head off, and they looked at me so funny, they didn't know what to think. But when you're killing 200 chicken, you don't wring their heads off that way.
And that was before deep freeze? Before deep freezes?
I bought my milk cartons from the Gilt Edge and put chicken in that and water. It's really a nice way to put them away. It was really nice when you took them out.
Did you have a big garden?
Oh, I had a garden before we ever married. My husband bought fruit jars for me, and my daddy gave me a place to make a garden, and I made a garden in can. So we wasn't rich by any means, but we had plenty to eat. And I remember one Sunday, my uncle and his wife came. My uncle was her name Nettie, and I fixed dinner for him. And most of it was from the Chores, you know. And he bragged on it and made me feel so good.
How had you learned to can? Did your mother teach you, or home demonstration, or what?
Well, I think the demonstration maybe would. I don't remember Mama canning a whole lot of stuff. Peaches and fruit, but not vegetables, because they didn't have a way. I had a pressure cooker, but we didn't have that till Raymond bought it for me after we married, and it pressured. I mean, you could put your canned beans and stuff away that way, but I guess you could have put them in hot water, but we never did do that. Mama, most of her canning was fruit, because her mother had an orchard, and we had a lot of fruit and eat.
Did you have a cellar?
Yes.
Yeah.
My daddy always, there was a cyclone one year, I remember. I don't know how old I was at the time, not very old, and he could whistle and it would go so far. And he got whistled and he said, "Didn't you hear me whistle? Said you were supposed to come to me when you whistle. So there was a cyclone coming over the hill," and it never did get down close, but he thought it might. Yeah, we went to cellar. I didn't tell you that my daddy, after my mother died in 21, he married. No, she died in
25, I think.
Yeah, 21. He married his brother's wife, which she lost her husband in 1918 with the flu. And she was carrying a little boy at the time. So they married and raised us then after that. And a wonderful person she was. She died in 36, year after I married.
I remember you the first visit. Can you tell us a little bit about? You talked about your mother making clothes. She made her own clothes. I remember you talking about she would look and dress you very fancy.
Now say that again, huh?
Tell us a little bit about your mother and making how she made clothes. Your stepmother.
Oh, she made some of the most beautiful clothes, and she never used the pattern. We'd pick up the catalog and we'd say, "Mama, we want that dress like that," and she'd make it. And I remember in high school, it was a black satin I think was called, and it had pretty flowers in it, and the teacher told me how pretty it was and made me feel so good. And I'd wash it through by myself by hand and iron it and put it back on where I could wear it back to school because I was so proud of that dress. But I really don't know where Mama got the material. I know she ordered some stuff from the catalog, but I can't remember where she didn't go to town a lot. So I can't remember where she really got the material.
And it was different besides feed sack.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I've had a little bit of that too before Raymond and I married. I wore feed sack dresses to work in, and I don't know that I ever wore them to go to town. But I've worn them.
So when you say Mama, that's your stepmother?
My stepmother, yeah. And sometimes she wouldn't have material to make the panties, our panties the same as the dress. So she'd put a flour sack up at the top and the other down at the bottom, and we'd have them to match her dress.
You make do, don't you?
Yeah, we may do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We never really went hungry. I can't say that we went hungry. And in high school, then I went to town and stayed all night sometimes with friends, And I thought, we're a lot better off than they are. They had the better home, but we had the better food. There was 8 of us that lived in a 3-room house. Sometimes I can't even remember where we all slept.
That was going to be my question. Where did you sleep?
When the store burnt down, we was living in this little house, and that was at Dibble, and it had the front room, what we call front room, but my mother and dad had a bedroom in there. We didn't have, and we had a kitchen and a dining room. That was what we had. And very small with 6 children.
Did you share a bed with your sisters?
Mm-hmm.
Dibble, did you say your husband played on the baseball?
My daddy did.
Your daddy
Yeah,
did.
my daddy did, yeah.
So was education important when you were growing up?
No, I never, I was the only one finished high school, and I told them I was the dumbest one of the bunch. Because they all got out and went out in the world and was around people and stuff and learned a lot, that way. And I didn't go to school to learn. I went to school because my daddy said he'd put me straight up plow and plow every day, so I knew he would. So I went to school and finished school. And it wasn't easy because we didn't get to go in when we was picking cotton, only when it rained. And you went to school and maybe missed 2 or 3 days, rain, and felt as dumb as you could be. You couldn't feel any dumber. But I had good kids that would just come by and ask me if I needed help, you know, and I couldn't ever say it was cheating because it was just help.
Did you ever,
And the way it was, I guess, because one of my girlfriends told me, made every book report for me I ever returned in, as far as I can remember. Because I didn't have time to read it. And she'd come by and she'd say, "You want me to make your book report?" Of course I did.
Do you ever remember the first car or first airplane you ever saw?
Oh, yes, hon. The first airplane, we were in the cotton patch, and it went over us, and we couldn't imagine what in the world it was. And I remember then after, it was just a little two-seater, you know, at the time. And so they was having a show with airplanes in Oklahoma City, and I can't remember what year that was. And we went up there and we got out and went around and walked around the plane and looked at it, you know, and the pilot got in and went up in the air and come down, and he come down just like he's going. And every one of us kids just ducked down and laid us on the ground. We just knew he was going to fall, and he got the biggest kick out of that. Yeah.
And your first car?
Well, I don't know. We had an old Ford that had the, what would you call it? A cloth top. And I remember one time my oldest sister and we kids were somewhere, and it was on a hill, and we pushed her off down that hill, and she drove. Remember we jumped in, and my daddy scolded us because he said she didn't really know how to drive. I don't know what, we were just doing things just like kids did.
A little mischievous.
Do what?
A little mischievous.
How was that? Oh,
Got into a little bit of trouble then. Just a little bit of trouble.
did I get into trouble? Oh, no, not my daddy. He didn't get on. He just told us we shouldn't have done it.
What were holidays like at your house?
Well, after Papa and Mama married, we always had her side of the family, usually at our house, because we had a pretty nice house in Blanchard. After we moved out there, the people, it was the nicest home I ever lived in as a child. And it was a brick home, and it's still there, that had a kitchen and a sink and a bathtub. And a dining room and a front room and 2 bedrooms upstairs in a basement. That us 4 girls slept in the basement, and the 2 boys slept in the bedroom upstairs. And because there wasn't enough room for 4 girls, and it was the nicest home we ever lived in. And then Mama's folks come there usually, and I said they came there because they knew there's older kids that could wash dishes after they got through with the dinner, mostly Christmas. But as far as a gift, our daddy never gave us a gift for just ourselves. It was always something we had a little red wagon one Christmas, and we had a croquet set one Christmas, and really that's all I can remember we ever got.
A croquet set.
Yeah.
Did you play?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And Raymond and my husband, them had a croquet set too. And after we married, the sister and the brother-in-laws was playing out there, but I was carrying my baby then, so I was just sitting watching them. And one of my sister-in-laws said she went through the bracket, and she didn't. husband stepped up and said, "You didn't go through that." She knew she didn't, but she told him he did. Because she couldn't go on till he went through that bracket. There was lots of good times. There was a lot of bad times.
Was church an important part of your life?
It was, honey, until my mother and daddy. After my mother died, we didn't go to church. We kids went to church, but Papa never did go to church that I can remember after Mama died. But they was faithful in it, and this is not very good to tell, but Mama, they went to every service. And she had us laying down on a pallet, and the minister's wife said, "Archie, what did you feed those babies before? You could brought them over here." And he said, "Sweet potatoes." So you can imagine the outcome of what was going on. But after Mama died, I don't know why Papa quit. We kids went on to church, and we would walk 3 miles at night back to church. My older sister, one night we left the house when it came time for the kids to come to our house. The boys came to our home, but they never did go to the other homes. And Mama would have dinner ready for us, and my sister had baked a cake or something the day on Saturday. So it was all prepared, and we never saw Mama. Sometimes she'd go in. She made her a bed in the bathtub because we didn't have running water, and she'd go in there and read. Sometimes we wouldn't even see her hardly at all while they were there. And then we left that house one evening, and my sister was going with a boy then, and I wasn't dating at the time. And my younger sister and 2 other girls was ahead of us, and Onita and I, which was real close friends, just like a sister, was in between Lola and Walter, and someone come along and picked Lola and Walter up, and we didn't know it. And we come to a little bridge close to the church, and there was a car stopped on it, and we didn't know the car. We didn't know who was in it. So she and I ran out in the pasture and hid. And they finally went on, and we went to church. But Lola was sending her husband our friend back out there to find us, see what happened to us, because they knew we should be there. But it's a lot of different times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I had to go through them, because I think it helped you. I can't say I like going through losing I've lost all my sisters and brothers, and that's not easy. Mm-hmm. And my oldest daughter, I lost her.
Well, what do you attribute your longevity to?
I don't know, hon. I've said many times, the Lord felt sorry for me when I burnt my hand, so He just gave me many years. But I prayed that I could do this and do that, see this and that, and I asked the Lord, let me see my children graduate from high school. I asked the Lord to have me in a home, let me see that. Then I asked Him to let me see my grandchildren, so I've got 2 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, 4 great-great-grandchildren. So I've got it's odd. They're born almost 25 years apart. First granddaughter, I would have turned 50 in October, and she was born in January. Then my grandson, I was 75. And there was 2 little girls in between that. And then this year, I turned 100, and I had a little great-grandson that was a day before or a day after my birthday, and I can't remember which it was. Mm-hmm. And my oldest, let me think. Granddaughter was born close to my husband's birthday, and they named her Car Ray Mildred. And I said I knew Ray would be on it regardless of what boy or girl, but I didn't think about them putting Mildred on it, but they did. But this little grandson that we helped to raise, he just worshipped both of us, and we did him too. And that's his two little girls. They live here, out here. I don't see them very often, but I see them pretty often.
And you said you helped raise the grandchild?
Do I?
Did you help raise a grandchild? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His mother and dad both worked, and they would bring him by the house as they came. We lived there on Franklin Road, not Franklin Road, on Robson. And they'd bring him and we'd put him in a bed with us when they brought him in, because we'd still be in bed. After Raymond had his heart attack, I think he was kind of afraid to go to bed. It wasn't nothing for us to be up at 12 o'clock. Then we slept late, which I still do, the same.
Well, what's a typical day for you? When do you wake up, go to bed, and
Now,
yeah. Well,
I usually go to bed just a while before, about 11 or 11:30, and then I read the Bible usually then, and it's probably 12 o'clock before I go to sleep, and then it may be 12 or 1, 2, or whatever.
and then when do you wake up?
Sometimes I wake up early, and sometimes I'm not awake till 10 or 11.
Good.
Sometimes I lay there and don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I get to thinking about my grandkids, nieces and nephews, and I don't want to forget their names. And it's not easy to keep up with as many as I've got. And I'll start counting them, and sometimes I have to say one of them that's married, and then I can finally think of the other one. But
And what's a typical day in your life? You know, what types of things do you do, or
now,
when you get up? Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't do a whole lot. I usually keep the kitchen clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I vacuum once in a while and make my own bed. And she helps me bathe most of the time, because that's how I broke my ankle, was trying to get over the bathtub, and I hung my toe. We had a sliding glass door, and I hung my toe on that. And I had my grandson made a bar for me, and I had a hold of the bar, and I held it as long as I just sat down. And she was with me, and she said, "Mama, don't get up, don't move." And I had broke my ankle. That's my trouble. I'm clumsy, and I broke a hip, and I broke an ankle. I broke ribs. And I cracked 3 ribs, and ankle, and well, what else did I break, Jerry? I forgot that.
That's it, I think.
And so that's why I have my wheel. Sometimes I walk if I can touch things, where I won't fall, but I'm very clumsy. I've been that all my life.
Now, do you have a motto that you live by, or a philosophy of life?
Well, I guess in a way I want to be a good person, and I love people. And my family has always meant so much to me. And I know I'm loved by them.
When did you give up driving?
97, when I was 97. Wasn't that right, Jerry? 97. I still drove some and went to church and bought my groceries. But she and her husband have been with me the last 3 years.
97, that's pretty good though.
Yeah.
You said you used to drive to church. Do you still go to church today?
I haven't been going too much because I don't hear a thing that's going on, and it's good. And I'm ashamed of myself, but I read the Bible and I pray and ask the Lord to bless me. But we haven't been faithful to going like we should. But
And you said you read the Bible. Do you read often? Do you,
every night.
But other books? Do you read any?
No, I'm not a reader.
She's the one. Yeah, I can't remember her saying she doesn't read that much. And a lot of the 100-year-olds we meet read a lot.
No, we never had anything. We never had a newspaper to read. We didn't have anything to read at home. When we worked, it was all work. And when my brother left home after my mother died, he went to California with an uncle, and he couldn't read at all. And his uncle made him learn to read papers. And he turned out he built homes and welded and done anything he wanted to do. But he is a hard worker. But he never, and he learned to read. But I know one time he was going with a girl, and she moved away, and he said, I can't write letters to her, so I'll just not even try. He didn't know how to write a letter.
So, a lot of individuals will tell us that they, for leisure time or fun time, would read. What did you do since you didn't read a lot or you didn't have books at home? What did you do for fun as a child?
First of all, no, I remember one time, I can't remember what. Anyway, me and my brother had got into it about this over something. And I was in high school at the time, and my daddy just stood there and watched us. And he gave me one of the blackest eyes you ever saw. And I said, I guess you just sit there and let him go out and kill me. And he said, well, I just want to see what you do. But we did. We scored and fought a lot. I couldn't.
He let you work it out on your own.
Huh?
He was letting you work it out on your own.
Yeah, we worked it out on our own. But my sister next to me, she was stout as she could be. And of course I couldn't do anything with my brother, and I just sat down on him and hold him, but I couldn't. Hazel would stand in a fist fight with him. I remember one time we was holding cotton, and something happened, and she pulled off his hat and told him to go get it. He wouldn't do it, and when he got out there, no, it was her bonnet, and he just threw it further. They got into it, but we still loved each other. I wouldn't take anything from my brothers and sisters.
Now, when history is written, what do you want it to say about you?
Well, I had a hard life. I can say that, but I'm glad that I had to live the way that I lived. It taught you a lot about life.
Mm-hmm.
There's parts of it I wish I never had to go through, but that's, as I said, it's just, I think it's been easier for me to lose them because I've always felt that's part of what we was here for, that we couldn't live forever.
How did you celebrate your 100th birthday?
Oh, I had, what was it, about 125, Jerry? And honey, I got so confused. You can't imagine how. So many, we waited till most of them were there. Sherry thought that would be the best. And when I went in there and all those people, it was just like they was thrown at me, seemed like, or something, I don't know. And I couldn't even tell you who all was there. I couldn't remember the names or the faces. But my little niece taking pictures of all of them so I can go back and look and see who all was there. But it was overwhelming.
Well, see, your napkin says 100. The party continues.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure.
I had from California, Tennessee, Colorado. Oh, where are the sort of other kids? There was one other state, I think.
Indiana and Ohio and
But I would take $1 million for the time.
Did you ever expect to live to 100?
No,
No.
I didn't. But my sister got 96, my older sister, and she was just sitting in a chair and threw her head back, and that was it. And my sister next to me was 70, and she had cancer. And then my youngest sister next to her, my brother was in between them, and she died with cancer at 67. But I don't know, I prayed for those things, and I knew the Lord answered me, is all I can say. But I never thought of being 100 years old.
Was there a point when you realized you might make it?
So
What's that?
I say I was happy that I made it to 100. And my health is better than my daughter's. Or the doctors, he said, it's clumsy. And I've been that all my life, so I don't expect anything.
they said that right hand, because it didn't develop, it curled, that it affected the whole right side of her body. The leg is shorter. The muscular did not develop. The shoulder's shorter.
Oh.
And I have to alter all of her clothes.
But the doctor said, what was he told me was better than his? Oxygen. But I don't even take a pill. Not
No high blood pressure?
Other than the hand, the arm, when you were a child, have you had any other major illness or like things like cancer or diabetes or anything? And no medication?
No, that's my medications right there. Vitamins.
She got a serious intestinal thing on a home demonstration trip once.
Oh, yeah.
That killed a lot of women. I can't remember what it was.
I've been
she was in
blessed.
the hospital with that intestinal.
I think I ate a piece of pie that no one else seemed to eat, and it's what got
There were 3 women
put
that
me in the
died on
hospital.
that trip.
3 women that died on that trip.
Huh.
A home demonstration trip.
Yeah.
And how?
There were several got sick, and some of them didn't even they didn't know what happened, and after the doctor diagnosed them, and they kind of diagnosed that they got something too. There's 2 or 3 of them.
Tell them what you called it, Mama.
Huh?
Tell them what you called the disease. What did you call the disease?
Gosh, I've even forgot.
She called it shipmanella.
Because that's what I had to do.
You can keep that for the record or scratch it.
So you were a member of a home demonstration club,
Oh, yeah.
did you?
I enjoyed that.
Do you remember the name of it?
Willing workers.
Willing Workers.
Hmm.
They don't
Yeah,
have too many of those anymore.
You have some real good friends in there. Of course, they're all gone, but I've got one little girl that was the age of my oldest sister that was with us, and she's still, her and her husband is just like my kids. They'd come and do anything in the world, and she can't look at me hardly without crying. She had to come and hug me and cry for my 100th birthday. But we had some good times together. Raymond, we played 42, and the last time we played 42 was with them with the.
Well, what's 42?
Well, it's a card game, but it's that you play with cards, and Raymond was getting mixed up because he was, not well at that time, and she said, "That's okay, Raymond," because she and him played together as partners, and her husband and I played partners, and she said, "That's okay, Raymond," said, "I'll just tell you what to do." But they was just real good friends.
And when did you lose him?
When did I lose him? 14 years ago.
So you were married over 50 years then?
We had 64 years
A long time.
that year. Now it'd be 78.
That's a long time.
So I had a good long married life, and wish it had been longer, but it wasn't. But he had cancer, prostate cancer. Oh, I tell you, but he's the sweetest thing sometimes, and he could be so ornery sometimes. But my nephew and grandson and his wife raised this little dog, and they had lost theirs, and they brought it up and wanted him to help it, and we taken him back to Colorado in a van on a pillow, because every time we'd hit a bump, it'd scare him to death. And I told Jerry, I said, I used to carry Sharon on my pillow in my lap when we traveled. And I said, let's put him on the pillow. And it didn't get the jar, that we got otherwise. So he's been around several years himself.
He's good company.
And he's good to mine at times too, and other times he's not so good. But he comes to see me every morning before I get out of bed, and he'll sleep between in the hallway sometime where he can see in here, because Fred stays in the front room quite a bit. His legs jump so bad he jerk till he can't sleep in bed, so he sleeps sitting in that chair about 11 times, and she sleeps in that, and I sleep in that, and he'll lay in the hallway where he can see all 4 rooms.
He takes care of all three of you.
Well, what I do without them, they're both so good to me.
Well, is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, hon, I guess I probably done all I know, or maybe more.
No, you've done great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.